I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech, so maybe they'll have to go after you.
I believe in the freedom of speech.
It's not free speech. When you come out and you say it's okay what happened to Charlie, we're firing people. We're seeing people online who are posting hate speech. They should be shut down.
We have to ask ourselves the questions as leaders. Are we willing to defend people even if we disagree with what they say? If you're not willing to do that, I don't think you're fit to lead Europe or the United States of America. So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer.
I want you to think for a minute about the decades of abuse that has been heaped upon the good people of this nation. Takes away the right to free speech, the right to political expression. To all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate, the power of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership will be used to find you, will be used to take away your money, take away your power, and if you've broken the law, to take away your freedom.
Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rucha HaKwadash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. So, as you just saw, was a clip, compiling of various different individuals that are part of the Trump administration, right, along with Trump himself. Okay, basically speaking with a forked tongue. Okay, as the scripture says, right, their own tongue shall condemn them. You see, and a lot of people are paying attention. A lot of people are blowing the whistle on the hypocrisy of the so-called right. All right, that before was so against this whole, freedom of speech being threatened, right? They were against the whole cancel culture, that was happening during the Biden administration, which that time period, right? You had this whole cancel culture propaganda because of people speaking out against the so-called left ideologies. Okay, particularly when it comes to the Labiquita community, right, and those that wanted to, do outrageous things like have a man be able to go into a woman's gym locker, right, or being forced to call a individual by the pronouns that they want to be called by and not what is their biological actual gender. So if you didn't do that, if you didn't follow those guidelines, right, if you didn't adhere to that rhetoric, then you would be canceled. And you've seen that take place, during the Biden administration, where people were being canceled because of their opinions, right, on the so-called left's ideologies. And now you have the same thing happening, right? But now it's on the right. And this is how you can tell, okay, in which, we have been, through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, have been saying all along, right, that the two horns, all right, that is on this beast, right, the beast being Edom's system, particularly here in Babylon the Great, but you got NATO, right, the EU as well, which comprises of the Western culture, Western hegemony, that those two horns representing the both political parties, okay, the Republic and Senate, which goes back to the Roman Empire of the plebeians and the patricians, they are on the same beast, right? As we say, it's two feathers of the same bird, right? Two horns on the same goat, okay? Two sides of the same coin. It's the same thing. But as it says, right, when you read it, two horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon. Now, what is actually being spoken, right? And when you speak something, that's also synonymous to, bringing it to life, okay? And what they're bringing to life, right? What they're activating is this martial law, all right, police state system, okay? The panopticon, the censorship, right, and the your rights, your amendment rights, right, being constitutional rights, if you will, being taken away from you, okay, and the right, all right, the so-called right, all right, the Republicans, they're going extremely hard on this, and they're using this whole rhetoric of CK and labeling certain organizations, right, as DTs, all right, getting people fired for expressing their opinions and views in their speech, right? Remember, according to the Constitution, you have the freedom of expression. But what they are calling for, as this guy said, that you get your money taken away from you, you get your power taken away from you, right? And if you have broken the law, then you get your freedom taken away from you. And that is where this is all leading onto, all right? Is leading onto this being outlawed, right? Your speech being outlawed. And if you don't speak according to what they deem appropriate, which is ultimately worshiping the beast, then you're going to be killed. And when you go into that word killed, not only does it mean in the literal sense, right, but also in the metaphorical sense of being separated from society. Let's get it. Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak. Okay, and we know that the beast, right, is once again the system, which this beast that John saw, which is the second beast, it had power to exercise all of the power of the first beast, which is the Roman Empire. Okay, and even in the Roman Empire, there were certain, things that you couldn't do, you couldn't say. Okay, that would be, if it was said, that it would be, basically deemed unlawful, right? And that is why you had the apostles, well, starting with Yahushua, but you also had the apostles that were killed by the, particularly you had Apostle Paul. He was killed by the Roman government because of the things that he said. You see, because the things that he said, which is what he proclaimed the another king, right? He proclaimed Yahushua as the King of Kings. He proclaimed Yahushua as the one, to grant the kingdom, to give the kingdom. And under the Roman law, anything that you spoken out against Rome or you spoke out against Caesar, basically would be, deemed, unlawful. Matter of fact, let me just get something real quick. I think it's in John, the 19th chapter. Let's see. Yep. John 19, verse 12. It says, and from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, saying, if thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. Whosoever maketh himself a king speaketh against Caesar. And that's really the notion, right? And that's the direction that Trump is even moving in. You see, that's how you see him coming after all of the reporters, news reporters, anybody that, you know, asks him a question that he doesn't like, if it you know, rubs him the wrong way, if it challenges, you know, what he is doing, then, you know, he calls them either fake news, or he tells them that, you know, he belittles them, right? He says that they should be canceled, or, you know, they should be fired, all these things, right? The same thing that happened just happened with Jimmy Kimmel, you see? But this is really a showing of the mindset and the way that they are attacking speech. And they're doing all this, and as we're going to continue to say, right, they're doing all this and they're covering all these different angles and preparing all of these different traps. It's ultimately to what? Get at the gospel, right? To get at those that profess, okay, that profess the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay, because that to them is the biggest problem. That to them is their biggest, you know, threat. Because once this word goes out, as the Lord said, the end would come. And what end? The end of this age. And who is the ruler? Who is in control? Who age is this? This is the age of Esau, Edom, right? And the fact that we are not only have awoken, but we are revealing the wicked, as the scripture says, it's, you know, causing a light to be shined up on him. So he wants to try to silence that that revelation of who he is, right? He wants to silence, you know, our testimony, okay, that is against him, because our testimony against him is what is going to cause the judgment to come upon him, right? As Yahweh Shai used about the parable of the widow, right? The widow that was going to the unjust king, and he ultimately said he used that parable for us to this end, that a man should always pray and never faint. Right. And toward the bottom, he says, what? Shall not the Most High avenge his own elect, whose cry unto him day and night, though he bear long with him? What is the elect crying day and night for? Right. What is the Lord going to avenge them for? He's going to avenge his elect on their adversaries. All right. Matter of fact, let me see what that word avenge, because we know in the Hebrew the word avenge goes into a kinsman's redeemer, or should I say the word redeemer, right, goes into avenging, which goes back into the law, which only a kinsman had the right to avenge, right, his fellow kinsman. It had to be a close kinsman to avenge, you know, his kinsman, whether it be on, you know, being put to death, okay, whether it be him being sold to his enemy, so on and so forth. So only an actual kinsman can avenge a kinsman. And that is what Yahweh Shai is coming to do for his kinsman. That's why Paul spoke about that in Romans, the 9th chapter, about concerning Hamashiach, right? Concerning the flesh, Hamashiach came. Right, the brethren, the kinsmen, according to the flesh. Luke chapter 8, verse. Oh no, Salakia. Chapter 18. Luke chapter 18, verse 8. It says, "I tell you that he will avenge them speedily." So let's see what this word avenge is. Vindicate, right? A vengeance, punishment, vindication, retribution. See? So this is something that is going to take place on the earth. Now, who are the ones that the elect are looking for, you know, vengeance for on? All right, our enemies. Okay, starting with the accuser of our brethren. Right, we go into the root. It says to vindicate, retaliate, punish, right? to protect, defend one person from another, to punish a person for a thing. And this isn't going to be, just one individual person, but a nation, right? In the book of Job, it tells you how the Lord takes judgment, right, on an individual, and it also takes judgment on a nation. Let me see. Nation. For some reason, I'm thinking I never remember what the actual verse chapter is, but I'm thinking it's in Job 34 for some reason. Let's see. Yep. Job chapter 34, verse, the point is in 29. Let's see. It says, when he giveth quietness, who then can make trouble? And when he hideth his face, who then can behold him? Whether it be done against a nation or against a man only. See? So the Lord, he judges individuals, but he also judges nations. Right? In the NLT, it says, but if he chooses to remain quiet, who can criticize him? When he hides his face, no one can find him, whether an individual or a nation. All right. And there's nations, pursuant to Psalms, the 83rd chapter, that are our adversaries, that consult against us, that want to cut off Israel from being a nation. Right. And it starts with Esau, Edom. But then you have all of these other nations as well. All of the heathens are adversaries unto Israel. That is why all of the heathens are going into captivity. All right. Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, speaks about that. And you see, and we have this testimony. We have this witness, right, against the wicked, right, on their works. And that is what they want to silence. All right. And the way that they're going about it is what you're seeing, right, being in this uproar, right, and they're moving the goalpost. Okay. Now they're moving the goalposts to where you can't even have an opinion, whether it's true or not. That doesn't matter. If it's against their cause, if it's against their agenda, right? If it's against what they say, then you're going to be deemed a DT. And this is why we have been warning this, right? This is something that through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, from the elders and apostles of Great Millstone on down, right? The true prophets of the Lord, right? The ones that are actually warning you. And this warning that we're doing is putting our lives at risk, right? We're hazarding our lives, as it says in Acts, the 15th chapter. Because who are they actually there? They've spoken about how they want to go after different, groups, right? Or organizations. I actually have a clip here, and let me play this from this is from the Prepper News channel, right? And this guy, okay, he speaks about how you had the so-called right. They were at one point speaking about the tyranny of the left and how they were taking away the freedoms and how they were, attacking freedom of speech. And that is why you had that clip I showed in the beginning, why you had those people at one point said, oh, yeah, we want to protect freedom of speech. We want to, do this and that. You shouldn't be attacked for your opinion and all these things. But as soon as they get into office, because once again, this isn't about a left versus right thing. See, that is a psyop that is being played on the minds of the zombies, right? Them playing on the minds of the people, okay, the sheeple. But at the end of the day, they all work for the same cause, and it's to do what? It's to bring in this tyrannical, draconian system to where even your thoughts can be used against you. Remember what Biden said to the Chief Justice Roberts, which he is now, he is still, right, a judge, okay, that was appointed. I think he's a Republican judge, but he's still a judge. And Biden said back in the 90s or the 80s, not in 90s or the early 2000s, he said about in his tenure, right, and you can look it up, brothers have shown it plenty of times, that in Chief Roberts, Justice Roberts' tenure, John Roberts, I think that's what his name was, that he will have to rule on whether a microscopic tag can be placed in a person to figure out, whether or not if they are predisposed to crime. And that was back in, like I said, it was either the 90s, might have been the early 2000s. I think or the 90s. I can't remember. But it wasn't too long ago, because it's that Supreme Court judge is still active right now. All right. And this is where this is all going toward. And that is why, whether it's the left or the right, they both are saying the same thing when it comes to, the freedom of speech. That's what they want to take away. And it's, like I said, it's ultimately to stop this word from going out, which is a part of prophecy, right? The famine of hearing of the word. So let's listen to this. I'm going to play it, fast. So hopefully you can keep up with it. Let me go to 1 point. Let's do 1.4.
Timothy McVeigh and Waco and things of that nature as being justifications that the government used to crack down on civil liberties and freedom of speech. Today, you have an interesting situation, and you really have to be incredibly critically minded and circumspect to observe these kind of things and not be hyperpolarized. Today, you have a situation in which those same individuals at InfoWars are tacitly endorsing the deployment of troops, paramilitary, National Guard, whatever you want to call them, onto the streets of the United States, whilst embracing that same crackdown on dissident voices that they railed against years ago, while now openly even embracing cancel culture. And the problem is, you might think that's great. You might think it's great that Antifa has been deemed a terrorist organization, as broad and ill-defined and decentralized as it is, as vaguely and ambiguously defined as it is. You might think that's a great thing, and that blanket won't be used to suppress your voice someday.
Now, that's a very good point, right? That's a very key point to highlight, because you had Trump yesterday, right, say that Antifa will be labeled as a major, domestic T organization. And as this guy said, that Antifa is not, it's a decentralized group, right? It's not like it's, Al-Qaeda or ISIS or anything like that, right? It's very decentralized, and it has a very broad ideology, okay? But they're doing that, and the way that they're moving on it is very quick. All right, this is something that you have to understand, as it says in Revelation 12:12, right? Let me pull that up real quick, because these are scriptures that we read, but as it says in Habakkuk, in the end it shall speak. All right, the vision was for an appointed time, but in the end it shall speak. And just like how I said about the dragon, but it spake as a dragon, meaning what is becoming active, right? So these prophecies, right, these scriptures that we have been warning and using, right, to showcase how this devil is moving, it's now being active. Revelation 12:12, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. All right, he has a short time to rule. He has his kingdom is at an end. So what is he doing? He's coming down with this wrath. He's making these legislations. He is, labeling, painting with a broad brush, moving the goalposts, okay, labeling people, DTs for their opinions, getting them fired. You have the vice president, and I showed in the beginning. You have the vice president telling telling people, right, telling the population to call up people's jobs, find out where people live, call their jobs, and get them fired for their opinion on a matter, not for anything that they're doing, right? Not for anything, it's for them having an opinion about whether or not somebody, and the thing is, you can't even say much about it, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Whether or not if somebody was a good person or not. Let's just say that. Whether or not if a person was a good person, if you don't think a person is a good person, then, and you make an opinion about that, you should get that person fired. That person should be fired from their job, right? They should not be able to have a livelihood. You see? So this is that great wrath that this devil is coming down on, upon the people of this world. See, in the first part of it, it says, rejoice ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Meaning what? Those that had their conversation in heaven, right? Those that set their affections on things above. Because we understand that this world has to crumble, right? We understand that things have to get chaotic, right? That it is, and that chaos is going to cause instability. And that instability is going to cause uproars, and it's going to cause civil unrest and tensions and social collapse and economic collapse and all these things. But see, we don't have any stake in this world, right? We are just pilgrims, right? Sojourning, right? As it is written that when those evils come, be as even pilgrims upon the earth. All right, meaning don't be tied, don't be in the spirit of Lot's wife when you start to see, this place collapse, when you start to lose things, right? Because we are to be, strivers for the truth. That's it. And when you know the truth, you don't compromise the truth, right? That's why even with Yahushua, he told the truth even on to the death. The Sanhedrin, right? The council, they wanted to crucify him. They wanted to kill him because he said he was the son of God. All right. I think it's John the 10th chapter when they took up stones and he said, for all of these good works I do, which one do you want to, stone me for? And they said, what? Not for none of the good works you do, but because you have made yourself equal to God by calling yourself the son of God. And Yahushua didn't say, all right, you know what? I'm going to stop saying that I'm the son of God, because that was the truth. And even all the way up until, let me get that. When he was presented to Pontius, even Pontius asked him, right? Who are you? John chapter 18, I'm start at verse 35. Pilate answered, am I a Jew? Thine own nation and the chief priests have delivered thee unto me. What hast thou done? Yahushua answered, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. Pilate therefore said unto him, art thou a king then? Yahushua answered, thou sayest that I am a king. Okay. And it says, to this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. And that is the reason why we are here in this world. That is why we were brought into this age, right, at this time. Because it is our responsibility, it's our duty, it's our destiny to bear witness unto the truth. And that witness that we have, about the truth is something that we do not compromise on, even in the face of losing our jobs, our homes, our families, right? Even, our freedom and even our life. We are willing, as it says in Revelation, right? The 12th chapter, they love not their lives unto the death. because death is going to be presented as the only other option if we don't, if we continue to speak the truth. And this is in what this devil does, being the devil, he calls the truth, a lie, right? He calls the truth, okay, the love of the gospel, he calls that hate. Our ministry is already deemed, right, as hate speech, as extremist, and those that subscribe to it, to those that listen, those that like it, right? You put a thumbs up, all of that algorithm. Guess what? These devils are going to come after you as well. And this is, the condition of the battle. Those that are down for Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, right? Those that believe, are fully persuaded. Those that are going to stand stiffly. Okay, the Lord is going to give, a crown of life unto. But you're going to have to go through the suffer. You're going to have to suffer the persecution. You're going to have to suffer the demonization. You're going to have to suffer the slander and the lies and the ostracism. You see? And everything this devil is doing right now is leading up into that point. So let's go back here.
But understand, military on the streets, the embrace of cancel culture, with Jimmy Kimmel being fired today for saying something that I thought, in the grand scheme of things, of all the dumb things that Jimmy Kimmel has said, it was relatively harmless. Certainly no more outrage-inducing than one of those right-wing comedians like Dave Chappelle getting canceled, or something of that nature. So isn't it interesting how now those same voices who at one point cautioning against exactly what we are seeing now are now openly calling for that same thing? You know what that's called? Gotcha. That's what that's called. They gotcha. You see, they had to convince people who were so vehemently opposed to this kind of draconian martial law, coercive government tactics. They had to convince people, these hardliners who were against the government in every possible way, that it was a good idea to have what is essentially a quasi-martial law in effect. And of course they need this because we're going into a major war, if you didn't know that. So isn't that interesting? They got you cheerleading for the crackdown on this, what you think is going to be Antifa. It's not just going to be Antifa, right? Because the thing with government tyranny is it compounds. It doesn't matter if the law and the legislations are put in by the left or by the right.
You see? It's not going to just be Antifa, right? Because the legislations, they compound. So you can have the left use some legislations that the right put in place and vice versa. But see, now we're at the end where this devil, as Trump said, he's the chosen one, okay, to bring in this actual beast system. We believe, right? We believe through the Spirit that the Lord is using Trump. Hey, the scriptures talks about the last Trump, right? And Trump, he personifies a lot of characteristics as Nero, which, we believe also that he is Nero in the reincarnation coming back. And we know that during the time of the first church, it was Nero that persecuted the church. You see? And there was a major false flag in the Roman Empire by way of that fire that, a lot of people attributed it to Nero doing himself. But Nero did what? He blamed the believers of Yahushai, right, which were called Christians during that time, which were Jews that believed on the Messiah, right? And they were, taunted by being called Christians. Okay, they didn't call themselves Christians, but that was the term that was put on them. Those were the ones that were persecuted in the Roman Empire. And that's what you're seeing, formulating happening right now. Matter of fact, it tells you that in the book of 2nd Esdras, right? That there should be a insurrection, okay, upon those that fear the Lord. Let's pull it up. 2nd Esdras chapter 16, verse 70. It says, "For there should be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord." Are you not seeing right? The military, right, via the National Guard, being put into these cities. And what cities are they going into? Right, it's starting right now. There's going, in these so-called democratic states, democratic cities, where it's predominantly inhabited by, the Israelites, the southern and northern kingdom. Okay, because those are the ones that, are known to fear the Lord, is the Israelites. You see, but it's going to get to a point where it's not going to just, stop at what they call, gang crime and so-called immigrants and all those things. Esau, like I said, they're making the trap. They're setting, right, the blueprint to be justified into coming at this gospel, coming at those that believe, right, and profess the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Verse 71, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods. And we just seen that guy said that, right? This individual, right? He said that you should have your freedoms. Let's see if I'll play
this
it.
Country spreading this evil hate, the power of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership will be used to find you, will be used to take away your money, take away your power, and if you've broken the law, to take away your freedom.
You see? That's doing what? They shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Because if you take away your jobs, if you're getting people fired, then guess what? You can't, pay rent. You don't have any money to pay rent. So you're going to be cast out of your house. If you get your power taken away from you, whatever power he's talking about, they don't got much power, right? But hey, you get casted out of society. So that goes back to Revelation chapter 13, verse 15, where it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay. And when you go into that word killed, right, it says in the you go into the root word, it says of separation. Okay. Of a separation of part from the whole. The whole of what? The whole of society. You being separate, you being taken away, right? Being distant from civilization, from the society. And that's why they got these detention centers, right? They're building these, detention centers modeled after Alligator Alcatraz, is so that those they deem as dissident, those that's deemed as DTs, they're going to be separated. You see? They're going to be taken out of, the population. But it's all, like I said, it's all because of what? Because they hate the fact that we are speaking the truth. Let's pull that up in the book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 10. It says, I'm reading this in the NLT. It says, how you hate honest judges, how you despise people who tell the truth. See that? In a KJV, it says, they hate him that rebuketh in the gates and abhor him that speaketh uprightly. That's what they hate, because when we speak the truth, it shatters their house of cards, right? It shatters their system, because remember, his power is in his deception. But as it says in 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, that in the end, that the truth, okay, was going to flourish. And this is what this is all about. That's why when we speak about, this ministry, what is it? It's labeled the truth. There's no other religion, if you will, that is called the truth. Okay. When people ask you, oh, what do you believe in? The truth. Hey, we are the Hebrew Israelites, and we speak the truth. Did not Yahushua say he is the truth? He's the way, the truth, and the light. See, we don't have these various different denominations. We are apostolic and apologetic and Pentecostal. None of those things, man. That's not what Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua gave to us as a nation. That wasn't the cultivating that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua did. Okay, he gave us the truth, and that is what we speak. So here in 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse I'm gonna start at 19 and I'm gonna jump. Start at 18. It says, it said, behold, the days come, right? And this is speaking about a voice, which was the voice of Yahushua, right? Because it said it's a sound like it was a sound of many waters, which Revelation 1:18 speaks about. That Yahushua's voice sound as many waters. It says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth. And that visit isn't talking about, a visit to your auntie house. Okay. That word visit means punish. And the days are drawing nigh where Yahushua is coming to punish those that dwell upon the earth. And will begin to make inquisition of them, right? That word inquisition goes into what? Research, right? Investigation. And when you investigate something, right, they say, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. When you get to the bottom of something is what? You want to find out what the facts are. What is the truth of the matter? And that is what we have done, right, with this ministry. Okay, we have investigated. We have made an inquisition about who the wicked is, who are the Most High's people, why is the wicked flourishing, why are they doing all of this evil, right, and why are they living in prosperous ways? Okay, why are we at the bottom? Why are we disenfranchised? Why are we persecuted? Why is the earth being defiled under the inhabitants thereof? This and it goes all the way back, man. That's why you have the Bible, which is known as also the book of remembrance, right? Peter talked about, I stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance. Okay. And it was through what? The Holy Spirit being pushed or being the engine, right? To push out the prophecy, the word of prophecy. So it is really through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua that this inquisition is being made as via the men of the Lord being as the vessels. So it says, I will be and will begin to make inquisition of them, what they be that have hurt unjustly. See, that's what they do. They hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness. And when the affliction of Sion shall be fulfilled, because this whole situation, right, that we are in as a nation was an affliction. It was a punishment from our power, for our transgression, for our disobedience. But that disobedience, or should I say that punishment, wasn't going to last forever. And you read the scriptures, it speaks about that. It was going to come a point where the Lord was going to have mercy. It was going to come a point where the Lord was going to undo all of the affliction that he's done unto us. And it starts with us remembering who we are. And through that remembrance, right, we have this confession. We have this ministry, right? This gospel, this good news that what the Lord has remembered us. The Lord, there is a way, okay, back unto, the good graciousness of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, which is to do what? Repent. And that is only unto who? The people of the Lord, the Israelites. Zion, or to Zion, which means the memorial of the Lord. Memorial, which is what the word Zion means. Verse, so let me jump, okay? Because, there's a lot here. But right here, verse 27, it says, for evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. All right. And we're living at a time where faith is becoming, very, very, very obsolete. And Esau is pushing that vibration by way of furthering his technological advances, right? He is trying to push out people believing on the power of the Lord by saying, well, you could just believe on my technology. You could believe on my science, my pseudoscience, right? You don't need to pray, for healing. I can heal you. Okay. You don't need to pray for, a long life. I can give you long life. Okay. You don't need to pray for knowledge. I can give you knowledge. And that is what he is boasting in when it comes to, that MOTB. Right. But those that believe on the Lord, see, those are the ones that's going to have faith. And it's going to be very, very scarce. That's why Yahweh Shah said, when the Son of Man comes, shall he find faith on earth? It's going to be a small sanctuary that are going to maintain their faith. And those are the ones that's going to get the victory over the beast and over his image and over his charagma. It says, as for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which hath been so long without fruit, shall be declared. And that is what we're doing. And that is what is destroying him. Okay. That's why in 2 Corinthians, it speaks about that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. This is a spiritual battle we're in, but we're not using, I shall say this is a war that we're in, but we're not using any physical means, man. Because it's spiritual. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 3. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Right? The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. Okay? Pulling down these strongholds, the captivation, right? That this devil has had on the minds of our people. And it's through this gospel that is those shackles, those mental shackles are being unloosened. And that is what this devil, and that is why he's now attacking this your freedom of speech. Because he can't say, right, that we're physically doing anything. Because we're not. We're not physically a threat at all, but we still remain a threat because we're pulling down the mental chains, okay, that this devil has, put on our people. And the elect are waking up. And the more the elect wakes up, the closer the end comes. And it's very evident that number, okay, is just about sealed. Verse 5, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Hamashiach. Right? Because as it says in Hebrews 4, the word of the Lord is quick and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword. That's it. Just the word. And that's all we speak, the oracles of the Most High. And because of that, and because it's the truth, it's becoming problematic. It's a problem. And now this is what this devil is doing, right? He is making a man, we get that as well. He's making a man an offender because of the word that he is saying. Isaiah 29 verse 20. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity is cut off. All right, because that's what the Lord is going to do. Who is the terrible one? Right? Who is the one that, as it says, plot evil in the NLT? It's an evil thing to try to ruin a person's life for their opinion. Especially if their opinion is the truth. That's a wicked thing, man. But here it is. This devil is going to try to spin it, right, and accuse us by bringing up false accusations. When in the scripture, one of the 10 commandments, it says, what? Thou shalt not bear false witness. But that is exactly what he is doing. But see, as it also is written, that all of your enemies shall be found to be liars. See, they're liars, man. In this case, it's being presented in front of the righteous judge. We have our case. We have our witness, right? We are presenting our testimony and the evidence against him. And everything that he is trying to present, he is falsifying it. He is actually falsifying the things that he is saying. That is why, as it says in Revelation, the accuser of our brethren is going to be cast down. Matter of fact, Salakia, let me finish this. Verse 21, that make a man an offender for a word and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Right? In the NLT, those who convict innocents, Salakia, those who convict the innocent by their false testimony will disappear. Their false testimony. Oh, that's hate speech. Oh, that's extremist. Oh, you're DT. All those things because there's an inquisition being made because we have a testimony. But see, the Lord scripture says that we will overcome him by the word of our testimony and by the blood of Yahushua. It says a similar fate awaits those who use trickery. And that's what this guy was going into. That's why he said, you know what that's called? It's called gotcha. That's the trickery. That's the trick bag that Esau is trying to put, the snare that he is trying to place. But as it says, right, a similar fate awaits those who use trickery to pervert justice and who tell lies to destroy the innocent. And we, through the blood of Yahushua, are the innocent. That is why it says that in our mouths there was found no guile. Okay? In the mouths of those 144,000, which are the prophets, Revelation 14, verse 4, it says, start at 3, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne. And this is the new song that we're singing. Okay? Let's see what that word new. Chainos, refreshed. Right? Uncommon. That's what this gospel is. This is a new song. Not as if it was, something that was never, how do I say? Something that was brand new, as in it was just made, because this goes back to the old paths, but it was made fresh on the earth. Okay? The Lord set the apostles last with this message. So it says, and they sung as it were a new song. Before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song, right? But the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Because only those men were given that spirit of prophecy to profess this song, to preach this gospel, to wake up the elect through the words that we are speaking, which are ultimately the words of Yahushua, right? My sheep hear my voice. Yahushua told Peter, if you love me, feed my sheep. Verse 4, these are they which were not defiled with women, the ideologies and philosophies of this devil of this world, the wine, right, that have made the earth drunken. Okay, Babylon has been a golden cup that made the earth, the nations drunk with her ways, with her immoralities. It says, for they are virgins pure. These are they which followed the Lamb whithersoever they goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto the Most High and to the Lamb. Right, the first fruits. Those that are of the same, let's go to it, persons superior in excellence to others of the same class. Yep, because in the kingdom, you're going to have rank. That's why Yahushua said that those that teach men, right, that do keep the laws and teach men to do so, they would be called great in the kingdom. And those that break the law and teach men to do so, right, to break it, will be called least. So in the kingdom, you're going to have all Israel's going to be saved, but you're going to have low ranking Israelites,
and you're going to have high-ranking Israelites. All right, Yahweh being the King of Kings. You have King David underneath him. You have the rest of the 12 apostles, or the 11 apostles, because King David is one of those, and then you have the rest of the 144,000. Those are the first fruits, and then you have the 1/3. Shall I say not the 1/3? Then you have the great multitude, okay, which are the believers. When you read in Revelation the 7th chapter, which John could not number, which were the other Israelites that believe, you brothers and you sisters. Okay, and then you're going to have the wicked of Israel come back through the loins of the righteous, and those are going to be the least. Those are going to be the ones that have the shame and the contempt, because they're going to remember their wicked ways and their evil doings. And those positions, that's a set position. That's a set rank. You don't get a redo. You don't get a do-over. You don't get to come back and say, nah, I want to be ranked higher. Let me do it again. Nah, that's what you're going to be known as forever, right? Whatever rank you were in. Now, you're still going to be good. You're still going to be in the kingdom, but you're going to loathe yourself, as the scriptures say, in the sight of yourself. Verse 5. And in their mouth was found no guile. Boom. Deceit. See? For they are without fault before the throne of God. Because of why? Because what we're saying is the truth. And it doesn't matter if you want to try to label it, hate speech. It doesn't matter if you want to try to threaten us and threaten our lives. We are without guile, right? And let's go in this word guile. It says craft, deceit, guile, a wile, right? That's what this devil uses. He uses wiles. He uses, deceit. But us, no, our conscience is clear. All right. That we are handling the word of the Most High honestly. Not how this devil uses it, not how these false prophets, false teachers use it, but we're telling you straight out how it is. And that's why Paul said, do I therefore, right, become your enemy? Let's pull that up. Galatians 4, verse 16. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? And that is what this devil is setting up, right? We are his enemy for amongst other reasons, but here now, right, the men that have this message, because we tell the truth. Hey, even amongst our own people that don't want to repent, we become your enemy because we're telling you the truth. Well, that's what they're setting up. That is why they're attacking, freedom of speech, because it shines a light on their wickedness. All right, so let's listen to a little bit of this and we'll close it out.
Because when the left gets in there again, they're going to leverage those new
the left
government apparati that have been created towards their own ends. And they're not going to relinquish control of anything. The government is a black hole, okay? Once you cross that event horizon of something becoming legislation, it is very hard to unlegislate. And even if you do, the precedent is already kind of set. So right now, they need people to be cheerleading the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, if somebody had said, if it was on the equivalent on the other side, I was incredibly anxious throughout the pandemic when I seen these people getting canceled for, what just didn't make any sense whatsoever. But what they really were doing were setting the precedent for what we're seeing now. And so this is what I mean. Mm-hmm. It builds on each other. And they need to bring in the totalitarian police, militarized state, if they want to bring us to the next level of Marshall planning. And protest, quite frankly, is pointless. It's like a bunch of gazelles, protesting the lions. Okay, these people are not going to course correct. They're not going to change. They control the algorithms in ways. They control the minds of the masses in ways that the dictators of old could only could have imagined. To have such a hyper personalized filter bubble for every.
And that's the point, right? And he said protesting don't matter. Okay, and this is why we submit ourselves to the righteous judge. All right, we are looking for Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai to avenge us, to plead our cause. All right, we're not going to this devil and trying to, voice our concerns and our complaints and hope that he course corrects his ways. He's not going to. He is the devil. You see, this is why we're waiting on the Lord, as the scripture says, wait ye upon me until the day that I rise up to the prey, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right, so, pretty much that's it. I'm going to close it out. Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect, giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Till next time, Shalom.